We begin with Decision Desk 24. The first GOP presidential debate takes place tomorrow, and front-runner former President Donald Trump will not be participating. Instead, he will be giving an interview to former Fox host Tucker Carlson. The decision seems to have put him at odds with Fox News Network, who is hosting the debate. Now, according to a network memo obtained by Axios, Mr. Trump's senior aides will not be able to enter Fox's so-called spin room, where campaigns make a case for their candidates. Still, Mr. Trump has a significant lead over his competitors. According to Real Clear Politics, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is in a distant second with only 14%. Joining us now is NewsNation chief Washington anchor and host of Unbiased with Leland Vittert. Leland Vittert joining me now. Leland, good afternoon. Could Fox News, leaning away from Mr. Trump, spell trouble for him, or do you think it won't have any effect whatsoever?
Well, history is the best predictor that we have of future events, Nick. And at least over the past 6 or 12 months, we've done a number of stories about Fox News and the other Rupert Murdoch properties, the New York Post and the Wall Street Journal, moving away from Donald Trump on a whole host of different data points. And so far, at least, it has not hurt Donald Trump with Republican voters. And it'd be fair to point out that Fox News probably isn't one homogeneous group. There's a lot of hosts with a variety of different viewpoints there, both before and after Tucker Carlson's departure. So at least so far, that has not hurt Donald Trump.
Leland, how important, you talked about history being a predictor, how important are poll numbers? Are we making too much out of DeSantis being in the teens, or is this a predictor of a campaign that you feel may be on the decline?
Well, we always make way too much out of poll numbers, right? I'm old enough to remember President Hillary Clinton because she was way ahead in Iowa at one point as well. I'm old enough to remember President Jeb Bush, who was way ahead in national polls as well. So who knows? This is why we play the game. This is why we go through all of these things. And then in the end, the voters decide. What I would say, you asked specifically about Ron DeSantis, and probably tonight, Ron DeSantis has the most to lose because this is his opportunity to stop the bleeding. Ron DeSantis has been exposed to voters, especially in Iowa and New Hampshire, with an awful lot of advertising, with an awful lot of visits. His super PAC is spending a huge amount of money to introduce him to voters, and his poll numbers are going down, not up. So tomorrow night is his opportunity to make his case of why voters have gotten it wrong and why people see him wrong. In trying to turn around public opinion, trying to make a second first impression is probably the most difficult thing in politics to do.
Leland, let's talk about tomorrow's debate before you get out of here. Other GOP candidates won't get a chance to go head-to-head with Mr. Trump to try and sway voters away from him. What do you think they'll have to do instead to gain supporters? You know, Governor Christie has been very clear, throwing up the hands and going like a street fighter at him in an interview that he gives. But tomorrow will be the difference maker. Why?
Well, let's sort of start with the premise of the question. There's an awful lot of issues that voters care about, at least when I spend time out in Iowa, when I go through the Midwest and spend time with voters there. They don't care about Donald Trump. They care about their own pocketbooks. They care about national security. They care about the border. They care about the culture war issues. You could make the point that there's been a lot of Republicans who've been very successful over the past couple of years. Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, Brian Kemp, of course, in Georgia, and others who have run very successful Republican campaigns against Trump-backed candidates and won by focusing on the issues that voters care about, not on what so much of the media likes to talk about, which is the latest iteration of Trump news.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.